You will order the princess to marry me.
Long live the king.
Ever notice how some Disney villains are kinda lame? I mean, stealing a voice is one thing, but killing your brother to take over a kingdom, now that's commitment. Today we're settling this once and for all, ranking every major Disney baddie from F to S tier. And trust me, some of these rankings are gonna be more controversial than a South Park episode. Remember how those always stir up a fuss? Yeah, we might be heading for something similar here. So, ready to have your childhood memories shaken up a bit? Let's dive into this villainous tier list and see who really deserves the crown of ultimate Disney evil. Alright, let's talk about Scar, the ultimate family backstabber. You think your family's got issues? This guy takes sibling rivalry to a whole new level. So let's break down Scar's villainous resume. First up, we've got fratricide. That's a fancy word for killing your brother, which Scar pulls off with some serious style points. Then there's the whole manipulating your nephew into thinking he caused his dad's death thing. And let's not forget his stellar leadership skills. Turns out letting hyenas run amok isn't great for the ecosystem. Who knew? But here's the thing, Scar's actually pretty smart. He's like the evil lion version of a chess grandmaster, always thinking 3 moves ahead. His plan to take over Pride Rock? Solid. His execution? Flawless. It's like he's playing an underhanded poker game, bluffing his way to the throne with a paw full of aces. Remember that scene where he drops Mufasa? Man, that's some cold-hearted stuff right there. I mean, he makes sure Simba sees it all go down. That's like evil with a cherry on top. So where does Scar rank on our evil scale? Well, killing your brother and traumatizing your nephew puts you pretty high up there, but he's not quite S tier material, so we're giving Scar a solid A tier. He's definitely in the big leagues of badness, but he's got some room for improvement. Maybe next time, buddy. Alright, let's crash this party with Maleficent, the OG party crasher herself. Ever wonder what happens when you forget to invite the most powerful fairy in the kingdom to your baby shower? Spoiler alert, it doesn't end well. Maleficent's whole deal is she's mad about not getting an invite. Talk about peak pettiness, right? We've all been left out of plans before, but most of us don't go cursing babies over it. That's some next level evil thinking there. But let's give credit where it's due. Maleficent's got style for days. Those horns, iconic. That green skin, unforgettable. And don't even get me started on her shape-shifting skills. Turning into a dragon is just showing off at this point. It's like she's saying, oh, you thought I was scary before? Hold my staff. But here's the thing, for all her power and style, Maleficent's motivation is kinda weak. I mean, yeah, not getting invited to a party sucks, but cursing a baby to die? That's a bit much, don't you think? It's like nuking a whole country because someone cut you off in traffic. I will place Maleficent in S tier, and the reason is pure pettiness at its finest. She cursed a baby just because she didn't get a party invite. That's the kind of grudge holding I respect, but also fear. From land to sea, our next villain is making waves in the evil department. What if I told you there's a Disney baddie who'd fit right in with South Park's shadiest business schemes? Enter Ursula, the octopus with an attitude and a knack for magical fine print. She's got this whole poor unfortunate souls thing going on, and it's catchier than a fish hook, but behind that catchy tune is some seriously shady business. She's running an underwater identity theft operation. You go in thinking you're just getting a new pair of legs, and next thing you know, you're signing away your voice and possibly your soul. No biggie, right? Her eels, Flotsam and Jetsam are like living security cameras, always watching, always reporting back. We don't really know Ursula's deal. Was she wronged by King Triton, kicked out of the Mere People Country Club for being too fabulous, or is she just bad to the bone? I will place Ursula in S tier, and the reason is she's basically an underwater mob boss. She scams desperate people, gives them a terrible contract, and then steals their voices. If that's not peak capitalism, I don't know what is. Alright, let's talk about the hottest commodity in the underworld. Hades, the god of smooth talk and questionable business practices. This guy's got a plan to overthrow Olympus that's about as solid as a cloud made of cotton candy. Hades is basically the underworld's version of a sleazy telemarketer. Hey kid, wanna be a god? Just drink this totally not suspicious potion. Yeah, because that's not gonna backfire at all. You've gotta admire his hustle though. This dude's been at it for literally forever, and he's still not giving up. Talk about job security, am I right? Now, let's chat about his minions, Pain and Panic. These guys make the Three Stooges look like criminal masterminds. They're about as helpful as a chocolate teapot in the middle of summer. No wonder Hades is always blowing his top, and I mean that literally. But here's the thing. Hades isn't all bad. In fact, he's got some of the best zingers in the Disney villain lineup. This guy could roast you harder than the fires of the underworld. I will place Hades in A tier, and the reason is he's basically a shady businessman who happens to run the underworld. He's got great comedic timing, incredible hair, literally made of fire, and actually had a solid plan to defeat Zeus. But let's be real, he lost to a himbo in a toga, so he just misses S tier. Alright, let's talk about Jafar, the guy who gives new meaning to the phrase power hungry. This dude's so desperate for power, he'd probably try to hypnotize his way into being the manager at a fast food joint. Jafar's like that one kid in school who always had to be the best at everything, but instead of joining every club, he went straight for world domination. Talk about overcompensating, right? But let's give credit where it's due. Jafar's got some serious skills in the magic department. His hypnosis game is stronger than a triple shot espresso. If only he'd use that power for good, like maybe convincing the Sultan to hit the gym once in a while. I mean, have you seen that guy? Now we need to talk about Jafar's fashion sense. The man's rocking a cobra staff like it's the hottest accessory in Agrabah. That's some serious villain swag right there. Dude, maybe try not to twirl your evil mustache every time you're plotting something? So where does our power-crazed vizier rank on the evil scale? Well, he's ambitious, he's magical, but he's also pretty incompetent. I mean, the guy got outsmarted by a street rat with a monkey sidekick. I will place Jafar in A tier, and the reason is he's the king of manipulation. He goes from sneaky royal advisor to evil sorcerer to literal genie level power, all because he wanted more control. If he just read the fine print on the whole infinite cosmic power deal, he wouldn't be stuck in a lamp. Alright, let's set sail with Captain Hook, the pirate who's got a serious beef with bedtime. You know, for a guy who's supposed to be this fierce pirate captain, he sure spends a lot of time chasing after a kid in green tights. Talk about priorities, right? Now, Hook's got this whole revenge thing going on, and it's like he's a human time bomb with a faulty timer. One minute he's all cool and collected, the next he's exploding over the tiniest tick of that crocodile's clock. It's honestly impressive how he manages to keep his crew in line when he's having more meltdowns than a toddler in a candy store. But hey, we gotta give credit where it's due. Hook's got style for days. That red coat, the fancy hat with the feather. He's like the Jack Sparrow of Neverland, minus the charm and plus a lot more anger issues. And let's not forget his signature accessory, that shiny hook hand. It's like he saw Edward Scissorhands and thought, yeah, but what if it was just one blade? Speaking of his crew, let's just say they're not exactly the sharpest hooks in the tackle box. You've got Smee, who's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. The rest of the pirates, I will place Captain Hook in B tier. And the reason is he's basically a fancy pirate who's terrified of a crocodile. His main goal, defeat a flying kid in green tights. He's got style, but let's face it, he's more comedic relief than a true villain. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the most insecure villain of them all? The evil queen from Snow White takes the crown for royal pain and killer looks. She's that friend who can't handle someone else getting a compliment, always fishing for praise and ready to throw down if anyone threatens her hottest in the room status. This lady's got some serious magic skills, but boy does she use them for the wrong reasons. Instead of solving hunger or boosting crops in her kingdom, she's out here plotting to murder a teenager just for being prettier. You've gotta hand it to the queen though. Her dedication to evil is next level. She doesn't just send a hitman or poison Snow White's food. Nope. She goes full method actor, transforming into an old hag to personally deliver that cursed apple. It's like she's auditioning for Undercover Boss, Kingdom Edition, while trying to win Villain of the Year. And that magic mirror? Can you imagine having one of those things? It'd be like if your phone could only run Hot or Not for fairy tale characters. No wonder the queen's so messed up. She's been doom scrolling before scrolling was even a thing. The real kicker is how short-sighted her whole plan is. Like, okay, you off Snow White, then what? There's always going to be someone younger and prettier coming up. Is she just going to keep poisoning girls until she's the last woman in the kingdom? That's not a sustainable business model, Your Majesty. I will place the evil queen in B tier, and the reason is she was so vain, she literally tried to murder a teenager. Instead of just getting better at makeup, she decided to poison a whole apple and turn into an old hag. That's dedication to the villain role, but also, maybe take a yoga class? Alright, let's talk about everyone's favorite puppy-hating fashionista, Cruella de Vil, you know, the lady who looks like she stuck her finger in an electrical socket and decided to make it her signature look. Cruella's got a unique brand of crazy that makes you wonder if she's been sniffing too much hair dye. Cruella sees Dalmatian puppies and thinks, that would make a killer coat. Her black and white hair, fur coat, and dramatic makeup scream batshit crazy runway show. It's like she raided a Halloween store and a luxury boutique at the same time. You gotta admit, it takes some serious confidence to pull off that look. Now, let's talk about her minions, Horace and Jasper. These two make the Three Stooges look like criminal masterminds. They couldn't catch a cold, let alone a bunch of puppies. It's like watching a slapstick comedy every time they try to do anything. You almost feel bad for Cruella having to rely on these bozos. Cruella's biggest problem? Subtlety. It's like she's trying to win the most obviously evil Disney villain award. Her name is literally Cruel Devil. It's about as subtle as a neon sign in a library. I will place Cruella in S tier, and the reason is she wanted to turn puppies into a coat. Not villains, not criminals, puppies. That's beyond evil. That's fashionable insanity. If she had Instagram, she'd definitely be selling limited edition fur coats and blocking anyone who asked questions. Alright, time to flex those villain ranking muscles. Ever wonder what would happen if your high school star quarterback never grew up and decided he was the greatest thing since sliced bread? Well, Disney did just that with Gaston, and boy is he a piece of work. This guy's got muscles on top of muscles and an ego to match. Gaston isn't your typical Disney baddie. He's not casting evil spells or trying to take over a kingdom. Nope, he's just a regular dude with a severe case of I'm the best syndrome. Let's talk about his sidekick for a second. LeFou is like that friend who always laughs at your jokes, even when they're not funny. He follows Gaston around like a lost puppy, probably hoping some of that misplaced confidence will rub off on him. Now Gaston's got some skills, I'll give him that. He can hunt, he can fight, and apparently he can eat a ridiculous amount of eggs. But when it comes to wooing Belle, his strategy is about as sophisticated as a caveman's. Me Gaston, me strong, you be my wife now. Real smooth, buddy. So where does our muscle-bound meathead rank on the villain scale? Well, he's strong, he's determined, and he's got a whole town singing his praises. But let's be real, he's also dumber than a box of rocks. His big villainous plan is forcing a girl to marry him. Come on, dude, that's not evil, that's just sad. I will place Gaston in D tier, and the reason is, he's what happens when a gym bro takes rejection way too personally. First, he flexes in the mirror. Then he organizes an angry mob to kill a guy just because Belle said no. Toxic masculinity at its peak, folks. Alright, let's talk about Dr. Facilier, the smooth-talking voodoo man from The Princess and the Frog. This guy's like that street performer who's way too good at sleight of hand. Before you know it, your wallet's gone and you're left scratching your head. Facilier's got style for days. His outfit? It's a jazz club owner meets witch doctor vibe, but the real showstopper is his shadow, which moves on its own. Imagine your shadow high-fiving people without you even moving. Creepy, right? Now, about those friends on the other side. These aren't your friendly neighborhood ghosts. We're talking full-on demon spirits that make the monsters under your bed look cuddly, and Facilier's dealing with them like it's no big deal. His song Friends on the Other Side is catchier than you'd expect for a villain tune. That line, "Are you ready?" gets stuck in your head, making you wonder if you're falling for his trick too. It's the perfect setup for his whole scam. Get you singing along, and next thing you know, you've accidentally sold your soul. But here's the thing. Facilier's got a major flaw. He's playing with forces way beyond his control, and he doesn't seem to realize it. It's like watching someone juggle chainsaws while riding a unicycle. You know it's gonna end badly, but you can't look away. I will place Dr. Facilier in B tier, and the reason is he's got friends on the other side and a killer sense of style. He basically scammed his way into controlling New Orleans, but let's be honest, if he didn't owe money to some shadow demons, he would have been unstoppable. Alright. Let's talk about Mother Gothel, the gaslighting queen of the tower. This villain could teach a masterclass in manipulation. Imagine the person who's supposed to love you most is actually your biggest threat. That's Gothel in a nutshell. She's got Rapunzel so twisted up, the poor girl thinks the outside world is full of ruffians and thugs, while the real threat is right there in the tower. Gothel's not just keeping Rapunzel safe, she's keeping her trapped for her own selfish reasons. And let's talk about those reasons. Gothel's more attached to Rapunzel's hair than to Rapunzel herself. It's like having a mom who only loves you for your straight A's, except instead of grades, it's your magical anti-aging properties. Talk about missing the point of parenting. But here's the kicker. Gothel's evil is subtle and, honestly, way more relatable than your average Disney villain. She's not trying to take over a kingdom or turn into a dragon. Nope, she's that toxic friend who always puts you down but then says, "I'm just kidding." Her passive-aggressive comments are so sharp, they could probably cut through Rapunzel's hair faster than those magic scissors. I will place Mother Gothel in A tier, and the reason is she gaslit Rapunzel for 18 years straight. She kidnapped a child, lied to her every day, and somehow convinced her she was the good guy. That level of manipulation is so impressive, she could definitely run a pyramid scheme. Alright, let's talk about the Queen of Hearts, a royal pain who's basically what you'd get if you gave unlimited power to someone with the emotional control of a toddler on a sugar rush. This lady's got a real thing for decapitation. Most people have hobbies like stamp collecting or bird watching. The Queen, she collects heads. It's like she woke up one day and thought, you know what Wonderland needs? More guillotines. Her go-to solution for everything is lopping off heads. But let's give credit where it's due. The Queen's got style. That heart-shaped collar and those card guards, they're about as useful as a chocolate teapot, but at least they look cool. It's no wonder Wonderland's in chaos. Her security team is literally made of paper. But here's the thing. For all her shouting and stomping, the Queen's not really that effective as a villain. She's more of a walking temper tantrum than an actual threat. Sure, she's scary in the moment, but once you realize she's all shout and no chop, she loses a lot of her oomph. In the end, she's just a big royal headache that Wonderland can't seem to shake off. I will place the Queen of Hearts in C tier, and the reason is her only solution to anything is off with their head. Honestly, she's hilarious, but not exactly strategic. She's basically a walking rage quit. So we've covered Disney's rogues gallery, from mildly annoying to downright diabolical. These villains aren't just evil, they're some of the most entertaining characters in the Disney universe. Without them, our heroes would be pretty boring. You know what would be hilarious? A Disney villain support group. Picture Ursula teaching contract negotiation, Hades running anger management, and Gaston leading an egg-eating workshop. Which villain would you want in your support group and why? Let me know in the comments. I'm sure your answers will be as wild as Cruella's fashion choices.